There are two ways to start a SaaS business. The first way is to solve a burning, urgent, important problem that you have, that you are experiencing, and people that you know are experiencing. The other way is to tap into a massive macro trend that's happening in SaaS and just riding it. Here's the big question though. What is the big trend? Well, you and I both know it's AI. But the real question is, how did these platform shift like AI, how did they play out in the past? And how would you actually go about taking advantage of this platform shift? In this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know on how to take advantage of this AI platform shift. And I'm gonna share with you 5 monster SaaS ideas that are going to be incredible companies as part of this platform shift. It is my hope that you will run with one of these ideas, or using these principles and using these ideas, you'll be able to iterate on the SaaS idea and the SaaS product you're already working on to take advantage of this platform shift. And when you follow these principles and you run with one of these ideas, you will be able to build an incredible SaaS business. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to build, grow, and scale SaaS businesses. So if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my SaaS go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. I remember my first SaaS business. No, this is not ToutApp. There was one right before that, and it was in the Web 2.0 era. We were just starting out, and the big platform shift that was happening back then was people were moving from desktop computers and desktop software where you installed it with a CD or deployed it in your own data center to the cloud. And Web 2.0 was the point where web-based applications were actually better than the desktop software that you used to use. It was snappier, it was faster, it was responsive, it was really, really cool. And during that stage, I saw a number of things happen in terms of that platform shift. Now, as you look back over the last 15 years in SaaS, my 15 years in SaaS, I've seen a number of platform shifts happen. And in each of one of those cases, the same core SaaS platforms got disrupted and up-leveled as part of this platform shift. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what those 5 core ideas are and the principles that I'm applying to actually take advantage of this big shift happening with AI. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's dig right into it. So everyone sweats about all kinds of long tail SaaS ideas, and those are great. But let me introduce you to the 5 core SaaS platforms that exist today. The first one is CRM. And CRM is roughly a $76 billion market, which is why you can start another CRM today and you could target it towards gas stations or spas, and you could still turn into a large enough market. The second type of SaaS platform are ERP platforms. ERP platforms are short for Enterprise Resource Planning, and these are essentially, and this is essentially a $54 billion market. The third kind of SaaS platforms that exist are CMS platforms. And CMS platforms are roughly a $24 billion market. The fourth kind are HCM platforms. This is the kind of stuff that HR uses. And this is estimated at roughly $26 billion. And finally, the last one, which I'm sure you've heard of, are business intelligence platforms. And these are valued at $32 billion. And this is all US dollars. Why did I start with this? Well, here's the thing that happened over and over with every platform shift. These core ideas, a CRM platform, an ERP platform, a CMS platform, an HCM platform, and a BI platform kept getting reinvented and kept getting disrupted through every single platform shift that's happened. And the same is going to happen with AI. Now, I'm going to explain to you exactly how these platform shifts happen and how you can take advantage of it and how you can run with these ideas. And when you stick around to principle number 3, I'll teach you how to actually build a SaaS product today without having to build an entire CRM platform and still aim to take advantage of this macro trend. Once you kind of lay out, these are the 5 key pillars of SaaS today. Now, there are long tail platforms. There are random little tools that get created, and those are great ideas. But at the end of the day, the most lucrative businesses in SaaS today are one of these 5 platforms. This is managed by the sales team. This is managed by the back end of the company. This is managed by mostly the marketing team. This is the HR, and this is pretty much spanning across the entire company. And each of these are so large and has multiple players, which makes it very, very lucrative to go after because there's always room for niche players, or more importantly, there's always room to actually disrupt one of these companies when a platform shift is coming together. So that's principle number one. Now we're gonna build on this. Principle number two is understanding how these platform shifts happened over the last 15 to 20 years. Now, I mentioned this before. The first, let's pick a color that we like. We'll use this one. The first platform shift that happened was going from CDs to the cloud. So that was one of the first platform shifts that happened. Meaning there were a whole bunch of CRM companies and ERP companies and CMS companies and HCM companies and business intelligence companies that used to just ship CDs, and you used to install it on your desktop or install it on your server in your own data center, and you used to run it and you used to license it. You didn't even rent it like you do today with the cloud. And one of the first platform shifts that happened was taking all of this and saying, you know what, instead of spending all this money and paying up front for a license, why don't you just pay us $99 a month and you can just use it in the cloud. You don't have to install anything and it'll automatically update, new features will get added. And that was one of the biggest transformations that happened. That was one of the first platform shifts that happened. You take a company like Salesforce, incredible company, massive company. But guess what? They were not the first CRM company. They were the first cloud CRM company. And the crazy thing was when Salesforce first came out and said, hey, we're gonna put all your customer data on the cloud and you're gonna trust us with it and it's only gonna be $99 a month and salespeople can use it, everyone thought they were crazy. In fact, they had the toughest time raising venture capital. That's how crazy these platform shifts are. It looks stupid, dumb, like a toy, and then they end up eating the giants. Now here's the thing, even though Salesforce was not the first CRM company, the original CRM company that existed at that time, it was Oracle and Siebel, they also had to go into the cloud. So they had to compete with Salesforce, and they probably even tried to buy Salesforce, but they didn't. And so they themselves had to disrupt themselves and go into the cloud. This is an important point, and we'll circle back to this on principle number 3 on why that's important, but just make a note of that. Once the cloud happened and everyone started going on the cloud, the next platform shift that started to happen was mobile. It wasn't just enough to have a really snappy web application accessing all your data. All of a sudden, because the iPhone came out and BlackBerries went outdated and Android came out, everyone wanted to access all these platforms on the go. And then the iPad came out and that doubled it even more. And at that point, Salesforce, Oracle, and all these giants had to scramble to actually take advantage of that platform shift. And here's the crazy thing that happens. When platform shifts happen, yes, these companies have a ton of resources, but at the end of the day, innovation is driven by an average product manager in a very large company. And these folks like to go home at 5 p.m. They're not like you and me. They're not startup founders. They're not re-envisioning how they can redo CRM or ERP or CMS or HCM or BI. They're just like, okay, cool, how do we do this mobile thing? And a lot of times during these platform shifts, these big companies, although they may try, they fail. Again, put a note on this because in principle number 3, I'm gonna explain why this is important. Once the mobile shift happened, basically for a very long time, nothing happened. SaaS became more and more saturated and more competitive, and there were new iterations of the same idea. There were new CRM companies, there were new ERP companies, CMS companies, HCM companies, and BI companies, but there wasn't a platform shift, so it became harder to compete. Around this stage, the big thing that started to happen in SaaS is instead of saying, okay, we are CRM for everybody, people started to niche down. They said, okay, we can't compete with Salesforce of being the CRM for everybody, so we'll just be CRM for healthcare, or we'll just be the CRM for real estate, or we'll just be the CRM for auto body shops. It goes really long tail. So the reason that happened was there was no other way to compete. There was no disruption happening, so they had to get super specific. And a lot of you may be working on ideas just like that. It's like, look, we're gonna build a CMS, a content management system, a web page system just for real estate agents. And you can go super niche. Because there was no platform shift happening, you had to go niche to really differentiate from these guys. But in the last couple of years, the next platform shift started to happen. And this is AI. Now we are still in the super early days of AI. ChatGPT came out maybe about 2 years ago. We're still trying to figure out how to make these large language models faster. We're still trying to figure out how to protect all the data. However, it's very clear that every single one of these platforms, just like before, with the move to the cloud and the move to mobile, are going to get disrupted. And perhaps more disrupted than we ever imagined. Because here's the crazy thing that happens with all of these platform shifts. The rate of change, the complete redoing of how these pieces of software work accelerates even more because compute becomes higher and the new technology and the platform shift that's happening allows for so much more. And there's been nothing like AI before. So that's principle 1 and 2. I wanted to walk you through the 5 key SaaS platforms that exist today and the platform shifts that have happened over the last 20 years in SaaS and why now there's a unique opportunity and an incredible macro trend because of this shift with AI. Now here's the big question. What do you do with this? You can't be like, okay, TK, let me just go build a CRM company. That's AI first. Like, what does that even mean? And how would I compete? And they're building their own AI features. That's where principle number 3 comes in. But before I go into that, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? There are so many incredible SaaS ideas, but are you starting to see, if you were to zoom out, why the SaaS industry is so special? Why these 5 categories are so enormous and there's so much opportunity. If you're starting to see why during a platform shift, there is so much power to be had in starting a SaaS company under one of these categories, are you starting to see how incredible this can be when you start to actually apply it? If you're starting to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And so do we. We put a lot of love in these videos. Also, if you're in this stage where you're mapping out what's my software idea going to be, how do I grow it, how do I get into customer conversations, you should grab a completely free copy of my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll tell you about it at the end of this episode. Let's go into principle number 3 and really talk about how this all comes together. Principle number 3 breaks down into 2 parts. The first part is what kind of product can you build today given where AI is at and given the competitive dynamics in the space. That's part 1. And part 2 is how do you compete with these big guys and how do you position yourself to take advantage of this platform shift. Let's talk about how you can actually meaningfully add value to this ecosystem. If you were to just start from scratch, one way you could approach it is you could say, look, if we were to completely reimagine how CRM works in an AI world, how would we do that? That's one way to do it. Now, admittedly, in order to build something like that can compete with the default case CRM might be kind of tough. If you go raise an enormous amount of funding and you fund that development and say, look, we're going to build CRM from the ground up, we're going to rebuild it, thinking about AI, that could be a great venture capital idea. If you are thinking more in terms of self-funded or you're doing a tiny seed round and maybe this is your first SaaS company, then that may not be the best strategy for you. But here's the thing. Here's how you can actually compete in this space with this platform shift. The companies that really won in prior platform shifts didn't just rebuild everything from scratch. They took the most important component of what these big platforms did and made that 20% better. In some cases, they sat on top of the existing platforms and disrupted them from inside. The best way to really start to take part in this macro trend and take part in this wave is to start to make CRM, ERP, CMS, HCM, or BI just 10 times better on one aspect of it. The best way to do this is to think in terms of a system of intelligence. System of intelligence essentially takes the data from all of these platforms, one of them or all of them, and pulls it into your platform. It then couples in a large language model or your own model, depending on how deep you want to go, the AI bandwagon, and it starts to actually generate net new value. Once you take in all of this data, there are a couple of different value add products that you can create in this ecosystem. One thing that you could do is you can start to do predictions. You can look at your unique set of data and maybe plus some of your own proprietary data. And you can start to say, you know what, based on our proprietary data and all the data we're pulling in, or some of the data we're pulling in, we can start to make better predictions about these businesses, and we're going to sell that. So that way we're not completely disrupting CRM or ERP, either one of these or all of these, but we're just going to make it 10 times better for one aspect of it, and that's going to be our land and then expand strategy. Another thing you could do is actually do automation. you could add features to these platforms that are super creative that makes it where one thing that used to take 10 clicks for a user in one of these platforms to do, when you plug in your product, they can actually do it with just 1 click instead of 10. That's automation. And using AI, you can streamline entire workflows that run on any one of these platforms. And then from there, you can expand into other workflows and start to expand your footprint. And the third one, and probably the most audacious one, is create entire agents. Agents are something that's still early in AI. There's a lot of talk about it, but it hasn't quite come out yet. But agents are essentially a thing where right now, if you were to sell CRM software, you would hire a salesperson, and then you would give the salesperson the CRM software. An example of an agent would be you no longer hire a salesperson, you just hire the sales agent, which is an AI agent that does a bunch of the work for you. We're not quite there yet, but we're gonna get there faster than we realize, where people aren't really just buying software to augment humans, they're just buying software that replaces humans, and those are agents. So you can start to experiment with that. And admittedly, that's a little early. I bet when I do this video in 2025, we're gonna be that much closer to it, faster than we realize, but it's still early days, but that's where it's headed. Any one of these 3 types of value adds to these existing platforms is the best way to take advantage of this macro trend. It'll do 2 things for you. 1, you're not gonna try and rebuild this entire thing and convince customers to move their critical infrastructure to you because they just won't. You're just gonna add a value to that platform and you're gonna amass users and then you're gonna expand from there. That's a much better strategy, especially during these platform shifts. There's 2 reasons for this. The first one is it's actually a land and expand strategy, meaning you land in one of these platforms, you add value, you amass users, and over time you start to add more functionality, and maybe over time you start to replace some of these platforms. That way you don't have to go in as a 2-person startup and try to convince a company on how they shouldn't be on Salesforce, they should be on your CRM, and they should trust you and put their entire sales process on you. Or do the same for their ERP, where their entire manufacturing and back-end operations run on your new AI-driven platform. That's a hard sell. The land and expand model makes it where you are creating one feature or a set of features that are just 10 times better than the native platform, and you're sitting on top of them, and you're adding value using this type of workflow. Now that's the land and expand model. What you can do from there is you can land and then start to expand on the number of workflows, and maybe over time, as you build up momentum and customers and raise more money, you can start to really be a contender to one of these platforms. Who knows? You could be the next Salesforce. You could be the next ERP platform like Siebel. You could be or SAP. Those haven't innovated nearly as much. You could be the next CMS platform, replacing WordPress, completely reimagining how content is stored and deployed on the internet. You could be the next HCM platform or the next BI platform. You could do that. That's one way to create a multi-billion-dollar company. And that's a perfectly great way to do it. The other thing that happens during these platform shifts. Remember I was telling you during principle number 2 that in the end, I'd really tie this together on how something really special happens during these platform shifts? Well, the other thing that you can do is instead of going after the expansion and try to replace one of these platforms, you can actually go for an exit into one of these platforms. Here's the thing. When Salesforce came around and started kicking everyone else's ass in the CRM space because they were moving to cloud, Oracle scrambled. Microsoft scrambled. And you know what they did? Their own product managers who go home at 5 p.m. couldn't innovate fast enough to move to the cloud. They couldn't innovate fast enough to move to mobile. So what they did is they went out there and they said, cool, what are the startups in our ecosystem that are integrated with us that are already providing a 10x better experience in terms of this platform shift? Let's just go buy them. And that's the best way we can compete with some of these other guys that are starting to eat our lunch. And so that's something that becomes available to you. And that's a huge thing that happens to startups, especially during these platform shifts. These well-entrenched players have a lot of money, but a lot of lazy product managers. And what they need are uniquely gifted founders and dedicated founders like you that understand this platform shift, that are creating better products as part of this shift. And they're more than happy to take some of their billions of dollars on their balance sheet and buy you. That may or may not be your goal, but that's still an option, and that's something that happens in an incredible way during these platform shifts. So let's recap. I covered a lot here. Number 1, the 5 core ideas that exist in SaaS today. The biggest ones is CRM, customer relationship management, $76 billion market. ERP, enterprise resource planning, $54 billion market. CMS, content management systems, $24 billion market. HCM, $26 billion market. And BI, business intelligence, $32 billion market. All of these over the last 20 years have gone through platform shifts. They went from the servers and the CD to the cloud, then to mobile, and now AI. During each of these platform shifts, new companies, startups come in and find a way to generate net new value. They often start with the land and expand model. They solve for one feature that's 10 times better and then expands from there. And a lot of times, the well-entrenched players start to get their butts kicked by the new startups that are becoming the expansion and becoming the true platforms. So they go out and buy the other players in the market so that they can keep up. Either way, this is your opportunity to take advantage of this massive platform shift. The best way to start is through this simple model. Build systems of intelligence. Start with the data from these well-entrenched players. Find your proprietary data. Plug in your LLM or your own model, depending on how brave you want to be. And then look into how you can drive predictions, automation for the people already using the platforms, or entire autonomous agents. And this is how you take advantage of this massive platform shift that's happening in SaaS today. So now you know exactly what the key 5 ideas are that I'm excited about, that have always been the best 5 ideas. Just look at the numbers, the way platform shifts happen, how to actually take advantage of it, and what the exit opportunities are when you get into it. Now, what you may not know is, TK, how do I really get this going? Well, the best way to get this going is to get into as many customer conversations as possible and make sure you're building a great product. This is why I created my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. Inside of this guide, we get into brass tacks on how to build a go-to-market machine so that you can accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. To grab your copy, just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. Getunstoppable.com/strategy. It's completely free. It's packed with my best stuff so you can actually understand how to validate the market you're in and take advantage of this platform shift. Also, if you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. We put a lot of love into these videos and YouTube loves it, but so do we. It means a world to us when we see you hitting the like button. If you got value and started to get your creativity going, if you're iterating on an idea and now you see a path forward, please put in the comments. I love hearing from founders. If you have a fellow founder, maybe a future co-founder that you want to build a company with, a team member, if you're part of a Slack group or WhatsApp group with other founders, please share this video with them. We want to serve the SaaS community. We want to serve as many founders as possible to build incredible software companies during this platform shift. Also, I drop an episode like this every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics on how to build, scale, and exit SaaS companies. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is gonna be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside the 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. Link below. Take care, everybody.